2 years after humanity disappeared from the galaxy, Captain Ryan Bell watched alien refugee ships approach New Haven. His sister, Dr. Amy Bell, stood beside him on the observation deck of the Orbital Defense Station. The ships were damaged and overcrowded with families fleeing the chaos that had consumed their homeworlds. "How many this week?" Ryan asked quietly. Amy checked her datapad. 300 ships carrying approximately 50,000 refugees. Most are from the Centauri sector. The Vorthan Empire and Celestial Federation are fighting over the mining colonies there. Ryan shook his head sadly. The Centauri sector had been peaceful when humans maintained security there. Now 2 major alien powers were at war over the valuable mineral deposits that human companies had discovered and developed. The first refugee ship was a Xylorian cargo vessel that had been converted to carry passengers. Ryan could see families pressed against the windows, looking down at New Haven with hope in their eyes. They had traveled for months to reach human space, hoping to find the safety and peace they remembered from the old days. "Sir," Lieutenant Nina Parker said as she approached with a report, "we have a problem. The refugee ships are carrying wounded from the fighting on Kepler Prime. Dr. Bell's medical teams are already overwhelmed." Amy looked at her brother with tired eyes. She had been working 18-hour days trying to care for all the refugees who arrived at New Haven. Her medical facilities were designed for a human population of 10 million, not the constant stream of alien refugees seeking help. "We need more medical supplies and more doctors," Amy said. "These people have injuries I have never seen before. The weapons being used in these wars are more destructive than anything from the old conflicts." Ryan activated his communication device. "Command, this is Bell. We need additional medical support for refugee operations." General Kevin Scott's voice came through the speaker. "Captain, we are already operating at maximum capacity. Every human colony is receiving refugees. We simply do not have unlimited resources." Through the window, Ryan could see more ships approaching. His sensors showed at least 50 vessels in the approaching convoy. Each ship carried hundreds or thousands of desperate alien families who had lost everything in the wars that now raged across the galaxy. Amy pointed to her tablet screen. "Ryan, look at this intelligence report. The situation is getting worse every day." The report showed a galaxy in chaos. The Vorthan Empire had conquered 12 star systems in the past month. The Celestial Federation had responded by destroying 3 Vorthan colonies. The Insectoid Hive Collective was spreading through the Outer Rim territories like a plague, consuming everything in their path. "Where are the Galactic Council forces?" Ryan asked. "The Council dissolved 6 months ago," Amy replied. "Half the member species withdrew after the Mantari-Xylorian War started. The remaining members cannot agree on anything. Each species is only concerned with protecting their own territory." A new alarm sounded throughout the station. Ryan ran to the main command center where his officers were monitoring deep space sensors. Lieutenant Parker was pointing at a display that showed something moving toward the galactic core. "Sir, long-range sensors have detected the Devourer fleet. They are 3 months ahead of schedule and moving faster than expected." Ryan studied the tactical display. The ancient machines had already consumed 2 uninhabited star systems. They were heading directly toward the most densely populated region of the galaxy. Billions of lives were in their path. "Have any alien governments requested assistance?" Ryan asked. "No, sir. Pride prevents them from asking for human help. They are trying to organize their own defense forces, but they lack the technology and coordination to stop the Devourers." Amy joined them in the command center. "Ryan, we are receiving reports that some alien species are blaming humans for the Devourer awakening. They claim we deliberately sabotaged the quantum barriers before we left." Ryan felt anger rise in his chest. "That is ridiculous. Our archaeological teams maintained those barriers for 40 years. We left detailed instructions for their continued maintenance. The aliens chose to ignore those instructions." Lieutenant Parker handed him another report. "Sir, this intelligence summary shows the current state of galactic defenses. No alien military force has weapons capable of damaging Devourer ships. Their best strategy is evacuation, but they lack the transport capacity to move entire planetary populations." The situation was becoming desperate. Ryan knew that humanity possessed the technology to stop the Devourers. Human quantum weapons could penetrate Devourer armor. Human scientists understood how the ancient machines operated. Human military forces had the discipline and coordination needed for such a massive operation. But humanity had been rejected by the galaxy. The aliens had told them to leave and stay away. Now those same aliens were facing extinction, and they were too proud to ask for help. Amy showed him images from the refugee camps on New Haven's surface. Alien children were playing with toys while their parents talked in worried voices about the friends and family they had left behind. Many refugees spoke of the golden age when humans had kept the galaxy peaceful and safe. These people remember what it was like before, Amy said. They know that humans could solve these problems, but their governments refused to admit they made a mistake. Ryan walked to the main communication console. Open a channel to Earth Command. President Danny Clark appeared on the screen. Behind him, Ryan could see the Earth Command Center where Admiral Blake was coordinating human forces across dozens of colonies. The room was busy with activity as officers monitored the deteriorating situation in the Milky Way. Mr. President, Ryan said, the refugee situation is becoming critical. We have received over 2 million alien refugees in the past year. Our resources are stretched to the breaking point. Clark nodded seriously. Captain, I understand your concerns, but we cannot solve the galaxy's problems for them. They chose their path when they rejected our leadership. Sir, with respect, innocent people are dying. These refugees had no voice in their government's decisions. Should we punish them for their leader's mistakes? Before Clark could answer, Admiral Blake stepped forward. Captain Bell, we have been monitoring the Devourer fleet. Our scientists estimate that 15 billion sentient beings will die if the machines are not stopped. The command center was quiet as everyone considered the magnitude of the approaching disaster. 15 billion lives was more than the entire human population across all colonies. Most of those beings had never harmed humanity or voted to reject human leadership. Amy spoke quietly. Mr. President, many of these refugees are children. They have lost their homes, their friends, everything they knew. When they ask me why humans will not help stop the wars, what should I tell them? Clark was silent for several minutes. Ryan could see the internal struggle on his face. Humanity had the power to save the galaxy, but they had been rejected and insulted by the very people who now needed their help. Finally, Clark spoke. Continue providing humanitarian aid to refugees. Monitor the situation with the Devourer fleet, but take no military action without direct orders from Earth Command. As the communication ended, Ryan looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the ancient machines were moving toward the galactic core. Alien governments were failing to organize effective resistance. Wars were spreading across multiple sectors as species fought over the resources they needed to survive. Amy placed her hand on his shoulder. Do you think we are doing the right thing? Ryan watched another group of refugee ships approaching New Haven. Each ship carried families who had lost everything in wars that humans could have prevented. But those same families came from governments that had rejected human protection and leadership. I do not know, he said quietly, but I fear we will find out soon enough. The Human Colonial Assembly Hall was packed with representatives from every human colony in the Andromeda sector. Senator Claire Adams stood at the main podium, her voice echoing through the chamber as she argued against any intervention in the Milky Way crisis. Fellow humans, Adams said firmly, we must not forget why we left that galaxy. The aliens rejected our leadership. They called us warmongers and interferers. They voted to reduce our influence and made it clear they did not want our protection. President Danny Clark sat in the front row, listening carefully to both sides of the debate. Around him, colony representatives talked quietly among themselves. The decision they made today would affect billions of lives across 2 galaxies. Admiral Tony Garcia stood up to speak for the intervention faction. Senator Adams speaks of pride and past insults. But I speak of reality. Our intelligence shows that the Devourer fleet will reach the galactic core in 6 weeks. 15 billion sentient beings will die unless someone stops them. Garcia activated a holographic display that showed the current position of the ancient machines. The Devourers had already consumed 4 star systems. They moved like a dark tide across space, leaving nothing but empty void behind them. Furthermore, Garcia continued, our scientists have confirmed that the Devourer fleet will not stop at the galactic core. Their programming directs them to consume all available matter in this galaxy cluster. Eventually they will reach our colonies here in Andromeda. A murmur of concern spread through the assembly hall. Many representatives had not realized that the Devourer threat could eventually reach human space. The ancient machines were not just an alien problem. They were a threat to all life in the local galaxy group. Captain Jake Morrison entered the hall and walked to the speaker's podium. His uniform showed the decorations he had earned during 20 years of galactic service. Behind him walked the crew of the USS Defiance, the ship that had led the human exodus 2 years earlier. "Mr. President, distinguished representatives," Morrison said, "I request permission to address this assembly." Clark nodded. "Captain, you have the floor." Morrison looked around the hall at the faces of people who had followed him out of the Milky Way. These were the colonists and soldiers who had built new lives in a distant galaxy because their old neighbors had rejected them. 2 years ago, we left the galaxy because we were tired of being treated as servants rather than partners. We had protected alien trade routes for decades. We had stopped wars between species that hated each other. We had maintained the quantum barriers that kept ancient threats contained. And for all our service, we were told to step back and reduce our influence. The hall was completely quiet as Morrison continued speaking. "I supported the decision to leave. I believed that the aliens needed to learn independence. I thought they would find a way to maintain the peace we had built for them." Morrison activated his own holographic display. It showed images from Commander Alex Carter's reconnaissance missions. Destroyed colonies, burned trade stations, refugee ships fleeing from wars that had consumed entire sectors. "I was wrong," Morrison said simply. "The galaxy did not learn independence. It learned chaos. Without human leadership, the species we once protected are destroying each other. The systems we once defended are now battlefields." Senator Adams stood up. "Captain, that proves my point. The aliens cannot govern themselves properly. They need strong leadership. But why should we sacrifice human lives to save people who rejected us?" Morrison turned to face Adams directly. "Senator, with respect, this is not about saving the aliens. This is about saving ourselves. The Devourer fleet will eventually reach human space. We can fight them here in Andromeda with our backs against the wall, or we can stop them in the Milky Way where we have strategic advantages." Lieutenant Nina Parker stepped forward with a data pad. "Mr. President, may I present our tactical analysis?" Clark nodded and Parker activated the main display screen. The image showed a comparison between fighting the Devourers in the Milky Way versus waiting for them to reach Andromeda. Our war games show that stopping the Devourers in their current location requires 12 human ships with quantum weapons. Waiting for them to reach our colonies would require our entire fleet and would result in the loss of at least 6 colony worlds. Admiral Garcia added, "We have developed new quantum resonance weapons during our time in exile. Our technology is now 50 years ahead of anything the aliens possess. A small human fleet could accomplish what would require thousands of alien ships." Morrison looked around the assembly hall. "I am not asking permission to save the aliens. I am asking permission to save humanity by stopping a threat before it becomes unstoppable." President Clark stood up and walked to the center of the hall. All conversation stopped as the elected leader of human colonies prepared to speak. "Representatives, we face a choice that will define humanity's future. We can remain isolated and hope the galaxy's problems do not reach us, or we can act to protect our own interest while incidentally helping those who once rejected us." Clark paused and looked at the tactical displays showing the approaching Devourer fleet. "Captain Morrison, if we authorize this mission, what are your requirements?" Morrison had clearly prepared for this question. 12 ships, Mr. President. The newest cruisers with quantum weapons and reality shields. A crew of volunteers only. No one should be forced to return to a galaxy that expelled them. Timeline for preparation? 2 weeks, sir. We need time to install the new weapon systems and train crews on the enhanced technology we have developed. Senator Adams made one final argument. "Mr. President, if we save the galaxy from the Devourers, the aliens will expect us to solve all their other problems too. We will be right back where we started, serving as unpaid peacekeepers for species that do not respect us." Morrison shook his head. "Senator, if we return, it will be as equals, not servants. The galaxy has learned what happens without human protection. This time they will negotiate from a position of weakness, not strength." Clark called for a vote. "All representatives in favor of authorizing Captain Morrison's mission, raise your hands." Slowly, hands began to rise throughout the assembly hall. The final count was close but decisive. 63% in favor of intervention. Clark announced the result. "Captain Morrison, you are authorized to organize a volunteer fleet to stop the Devourer threat. You will have full access to our newest military technology. Your mission parameters are simple. Destroy the Devourer fleet and return home. As the assembly hall emptied, Morrison stood with his senior officers planning the mission that would take them back to the galaxy they had left behind. Lieutenant Parker pulled up crew rosters of volunteers who wanted to join the mission. "Sir," she said, "we have over 3,000 applications from people who want to serve on this mission. Most are veterans who served in the old Galactic Peace Force." Morrison looked at the list of names. These were people who had given years of their lives to protecting alien species. They had been insulted and rejected, but they were still willing to risk their lives to stop a threat that endangered all sentient life. "Select the best of the best," he told Parker. "We are not going back as the same humans who left 2 years ago. We have new technology, new weapons, and most importantly, new confidence. The galaxy will learn that humanity has returned not as servants, but as the leaders we were always meant to be." Captain Ben Foster approached Morrison with the technical specifications for the new quantum weapons. "Jake, these weapons are unlike anything the galaxy has ever seen. One human cruiser can now do the work of an entire alien fleet." Morrison studied the weapon specifications. During their 2 years in exile, human scientists had made incredible advances in military technology. They had learned from their mistakes and built weapons designed specifically to fight threats like the Devourers. "Ben, prepare your ship for departure. In 2 weeks we return to remind the galaxy why they needed us in the first place." Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance and watched the stars through the main screen. His hands shook as he held the final message from Earth Command. The words on the screen made his heart heavy. After 50 years of service to the galaxy, humanity was leaving. They were going home. The message was simple and clear. All human ships must return to Earth space within 60 days. All colonies must be abandoned. All trade agreements would end. All military support would stop. The great human exodus had begun. Jake had served in the Galactic Peace Force for 20 years. He had fought pirates near the Outer Rim. He had stopped wars between the Xylorians and the Mantari. He had saved countless alien lives. Now his government was telling him it was all over. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Hayes walked up to him. Her face was pale and tired. She had been working for 3 days straight to organize the evacuation. "Sir, the last transport ship is ready to leave Colony 7. We have evacuated 2 million humans from that system alone." Jake nodded slowly. "How many more systems do we need to clear?" 47, sir. We have ships spread across the entire galaxy. Some are so far out it will take them weeks just to get the message." The bridge was busy with activity. Young officers ran back and forth carrying data pads and messages. The communication systems never stopped buzzing with calls from human outposts asking for orders. Everyone looked confused and scared. Admiral Peter Blake appeared on the main screen. His old face looked tired and angry. Behind him, Jake could see the Earth Command Center. It was the same room where humanity had first signed the Galactic Peace Treaty 50 years ago. "All fleet commanders, this is your final briefing," Blake said. His voice was strong but sad. "The Galactic Council has made their position clear. They want humanity to step back from galactic affairs. They think we are too aggressive. They think we cause more problems than we solve." Jake felt anger rise in his chest. Humanity had kept the peace for decades. Human ships had protected trade routes from pirates. Human scientists had cured diseases that had killed millions of aliens. Human engineers had built the warp gates that connected the galaxy. Blake continued talking. "The Council voted last week. They want us to reduce our military presence by 90%. They want us to close our research stations. They want us to stop interfering in local conflicts. In short, they want us to become second-class citizens in our own galaxy." Lisa made a small, angry sound. Jake understood how she felt. They had given everything to keep the galaxy safe and peaceful. Now the aliens were treating them like they were the problem. "Therefore," Blake said, "the President of Earth and the Colonial Assembly have made a decision. If the galaxy does not want our help, they will not have it. We are coming home." The screen showed scenes from across the galaxy. Human families were packing their belongings and boarding evacuation ships. Human soldiers were leaving their bases and handing over control to alien forces. Human scientists were destroying their research rather than leave it behind. On Colony 7, Jake could see the empty buildings that humans had built over 30 years. The schools where human children had learned alongside alien kids. The hospitals where human doctors had saved alien lives. The farms where humans had grown food to feed hungry alien populations. All of it was being abandoned. The Xylorian ambassador appeared on a side screen. His blue skin looked darker than usual, which meant he was worried. Captain Morrison, please reconsider. The Xylorian Trade Federation needs human protection ships. Without your patrols, the pirate clans will attack our cargo vessels. Jake looked at the alien leader. The Xylorians had voted to reduce human military presence just 1 week ago. Now they were begging for help. Ambassador, you should contact the Galactic Council. This decision is above my authority. But Captain, you have protected our trade routes for 15 years. Your ships know our systems better than anyone else. The Council representatives do not understand the daily realities of space commerce. Lisa stepped forward. Ambassador, with respect, your government representatives made their wishes clear. They want less human involvement in galactic affairs. We are simply giving you what you asked for. The Xylorian's skin turned almost black. This is not what we meant. We thought humans would reduce military forces gradually. We never imagined you would leave completely. Admiral Blake spoke again from the main screen. All alien representatives hear this message clearly. Humanity withdraws from galactic affairs effective immediately. You wanted us gone, now you have your wish. May you find the peace we could not give you. Jake watched as dozens of alien faces appeared on smaller screens around the bridge. The Mantari defense minister looked confused. The Crystari science director seemed panicked. The Hive Collective speaker made clicking sounds that meant distress. Admiral Blake, the Mantari minister said, surely we can discuss this situation. The recent council vote was not meant to drive humanity away completely. Blake's face showed no emotion. Minister, the vote was clear. Humanity was told to step back from galactic leadership. We are simply stepping back completely. The galaxy will be better off without our interference. The evacuation continued around them. Jake watched the tactical display as thousands of human ships moved toward Earth space. Cargo vessels carried families and their belongings. Military ships escorted the civilians. Research vessels brought back decades of scientific data. Lisa handed Jake a report. Sir, we have received surrender requests from 47 human military bases. The alien forces are not ready to take over security operations. Some bases are asking for 6-month transition periods. Denied, Jake said firmly. We leave according to schedule. The aliens can figure out their own security. A young ensign approached nervously. Captain, we are receiving distress calls from the Outer Rim territories. Pirate fleets are already moving toward undefended trade routes. Jake felt a moment of doubt. Human ships had kept those trade routes safe for decades. Without protection, alien merchants would lose their ships and cargo. Some might lose their lives, but the decision was made. Send the distress calls to the Galactic Council, he ordered. They are responsible for galactic security now. As the USS Defiance prepared to leave the system, Jake took one last look at Colony 7. The empty buildings and silent streets reminded him of everything humanity was leaving behind. They had built a peaceful galaxy through 50 years of sacrifice and service. Now they were walking away from it all. The stars ahead showed the path back to Earth space. Behind them, the galaxy they had protected for so long would have to learn to protect itself. 6 months had passed since the last human ship disappeared into deep space. Commander Alex Carter sat in the pilot seat of the stealth ship Shadowhawk and stared at the ruins below. Colony 7 had been a beautiful world when humans lived there. Now it looked like a battlefield. The Krithani Syndicate had moved in 3 months after the humans left. They had stripped the cities of anything valuable and left the buildings to crumble. The schools where human and alien children had learned together were now empty shells. The hospitals that had saved so many lives were burned and broken. Alex activated his recording equipment and spoke quietly into the microphone. This is Reconnaissance Report number 47. Colony 7 shows complete devastation. No signs of current habitation. Infrastructure destroyed. Estimated value of damage 12 billion credits. His orders were simple but secret. High Command wanted to know what was happening in the galaxy after humanity left. A small fleet of stealth ships had been sent back to observe and report. What they found was worse than anyone had imagined. The communication system buzzed softly. Shadowhawk, this is Base Command. Report your status, Alex pressed the reply button. Base Command, this is Shadowhawk. I am continuing survey of former human territories. The situation continues to deteriorate. On the other end of the transmission, Dr. Helen Rogers was reviewing data from automated monitoring stations that humans had left behind. Her job was to track what happened to the galaxy's environment after humanity stopped maintaining it. Helen looked at her computer screen and shook her head sadly. The numbers were terrible. On 43 worlds, the ecosystems were collapsing without human intervention. Species that humans had saved from extinction were dying again. Terraforming projects that had taken decades to complete were failing. Commander Carter, Helen said through the communication link, I need you to check the atmospheric processors on Colony 7. My sensors show they stopped working 2 months ago. Alex guided the Shadowhawk toward the planet's main processing facility. What he found made him angry. The Crithani had stripped out all the valuable components and left the machines to break down. Without the processors, the planet's atmosphere would become toxic within a year. Dr. Rogers, the processors are completely destroyed. Looks like they took everything they could carry and smashed the rest. Helen sighed heavily. That makes 17 planets where the atmosphere will become unbreathable. The Crithani do not understand that they are destroying their own future. Alex flew the Shadowhawk to his next target, the Nexus Trade Station. It had been the largest commercial hub in the sector when humans managed it. Alien merchants from dozens of species had come there to trade goods and services safely. When he arrived, Alex found the station dark and nearly empty. Only a few small alien ships were docked there. The massive cargo bays that had once been full of trade goods were silent and cold. A weak transmission came from the station. Unknown ship, this is Station Master Vrex. Please identify yourself. Alex recognized the voice. Vrex was a Xylorian who had worked with humans for many years. Station Master, this is an old friend. What happened here? Friend, the station is dying. Without human security patrols, the pirate fleets attack any large cargo ship that comes here. Most merchants have stopped trading in this sector. We have lost 90% of our business. The communication was interrupted by alarm signals. Alex's sensors detected 3 ships approaching fast. Their energy signatures matched Crithani raider vessels. Station Master, you have pirates incoming. 3 ships heavily armed. I know, friend. They come every few days now. They demand tribute from any ship that wants to dock here. We cannot pay anymore, but we cannot fight them either. Alex watched helplessly as the pirate ships surrounded the trade station. The Shadowhawk was designed for stealth and reconnaissance, not combat. He could not help without revealing his presence and compromising his mission. The pirates docked with the station and began taking whatever they wanted. Alex recorded everything for his report. This same scene was happening across the galaxy. Without human protection, trade had become impossible in many sectors. 2 weeks later, Alex returned to New Haven, humanity's main colony in the Andromeda sector. The planet was beautiful and peaceful. Human cities were clean and well organized. Children played in parks while their parents worked in modern factories and research centers. President Danny Clark met with Alex in the government building. Clark was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes. He had led the human exodus and now governed all human colonies outside the Milky Way galaxy. Commander, give me your report, Clark said as they sat in his office. Alex placed a datapad on the desk. Sir, the situation is worse than we expected. Trade has collapsed in most sectors. The Crithani Syndicate controls 40% of former human territory. Piracy has increased by 800%. Many alien governments have lost control of their own systems. Clark read through the data with a serious expression. What about the environmental situations? Dr. Rogers estimates that 60 planets will become uninhabitable within 5 years without human intervention. The aliens do not have the technology or knowledge to maintain the terraforming systems we built. Through the office window, Alex could see human families walking in the city center. Children were laughing and playing games. Adults were talking and enjoying their peaceful lives. The contrast with the chaos in the Milky Way was striking. Clark stood up and walked to the window. Have we received any official requests for help from the Galactic Council? No, sir, they are too proud to admit they need us. But we are monitoring their communications. The council sessions are chaos. Half the member species have stopped attending. Some have withdrawn from the Alliance completely. The door opened and General Kevin Scott entered the room. Scott was the head of Human Colonial Defense Forces. His job was to protect human colonies from any external threats. Mr. President, Scott said, we have received intelligence about a new threat. The Devourer fleet has been detected moving toward the galactic core. Alex felt his blood turn cold. The Devourer fleet was ancient and terrible. They were machines from a dead civilization that consumed entire star systems. Human archaeological teams had spent decades maintaining quantum barriers that kept the Devourers sleeping. Clark turned around quickly. How is that possible? The barriers were designed to last for centuries. Scott placed a tablet on the desk. Sir, the barriers require maintenance every 18 months. Human teams performed this maintenance for 40 years. Without that maintenance, the barriers have failed. Alex looked at the tactical display on the tablet. The Devourer fleet consisted of hundreds of massive ships. Each ship was larger than a human city. They moved slowly, but nothing could stop them once they started consuming a system. How long before they reach inhabited systems? Clark asked. 6 months, sir. Maybe 8 if they encounter resistance. But no alien military force has weapons that can damage Devourer ships. Clark sat down heavily in his chair. How many inhabited systems are in their path? Scott's face was grim. 47 systems, sir. Total population approximately 15 billion sentient beings. The room was quiet for several minutes. Alex knew what everyone was thinking. Humanity had the technology to stop the Devourers. Human scientists had studied them for decades. Human engineers had built the quantum barriers. Human military forces had weapons that could damage Devourer ships. But humanity had left the galaxy. The aliens had told them to go away. Now billions of alien lives were in danger, and only humanity could save them. President Clark finally spoke. Continue monitoring the situation. Do not take any action without direct orders from this office. The galaxy chose to reject our help. We will not force our assistance on them. Alex saluted and left the office. As he walked through the peaceful human city, he wondered if they were making the right choice. Soon the galaxy might burn and humanity would watch from a safe distance. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UHS Defiance and watched the Devourer fleet through the main display. The ancient machines filled space like a dark storm cloud, each ship larger than a human city. They had already consumed 6 star systems and were moving toward the galactic core where billions of aliens lived in fear. All ships report ready. Captain, Lieutenant Nina Parker announced from her position at the tactical station. Around them, 11 other human cruisers held position in perfect formation. Each ship carried quantum resonance weapons that had been developed during humanity's exile. The human fleet was tiny compared to the Devourer armada, but Morrison felt confident. His ships carried technology that was decades ahead of anything the galaxy had ever seen. More importantly, his crews were volunteers who understood the stakes of this mission. Captain, Communications Officer Tony Wells said, "We are receiving transmissions from alien forces in this system. They are asking us to identify ourselves." Morrison smiled grimly. "Tell them that humanity has returned to finish what we started." On the planet below, alien military commanders watched their sensors in amazement. Human ships had appeared without warning in their most heavily defended system. The energy signatures were unlike anything in their databases. Admiral Zerion of the Xylorian Defense Force opened a communication channel. "Human vessels, this is Admiral Zerion. Your presence here violates the territorial agreement signed 2 years ago." Morrison activated the reply channel. "Admiral, the territorial agreement ended when the Galactic Council dissolved. We are here to stop the Devourer fleet before it reaches the core worlds. Human Captain, our forces can handle this threat. We do not need your assistance." Morrison looked at the tactical display showing the alien fleet. 300 ships from 6 different species were arranged in defensive positions. Their weapons were outdated and their coordination was poor. They had no chance against the Devourers. "Admiral, with respect, your fleet will be destroyed in the first 10 minutes of combat. The Devourers have armor that your weapons cannot penetrate. They have shields that absorb energy faster than you can deliver it." Before Zerion could reply, the Devourer fleet opened fire. Beams of dark energy reached across space and struck the alien defensive line. 20 ships were destroyed instantly. The remaining alien vessels returned fire, but their weapons had no effect on the ancient machines. "All human ships," Morrison announced. "Engage the enemy. Show them what we learned during our exile." The human fleet moved forward in perfect coordination. Their quantum weapons fired beams of pure energy that cut through Devourer armor like paper. Where alien weapons had failed completely, human technology proved devastatingly effective. Captain Ben Foster commanded the UHS Vigilance on Morrison's right flank. His ship targeted the largest Devourer vessel and fired a full quantum burst. The ancient machine's shields collapsed instantly, and the follow-up shot tore through its hull like it was made of cloth. Confirmed kill on Devourer Prime-class vessel, Foster reported. These new weapons are incredibly effective. Across the battlefield, human ships danced between the massive Devourer vessels like fighters attacking capital ships. Their advanced shields absorbed the enemy's return fire while their quantum weapons systematically destroyed the ancient fleet. Lieutenant Parker monitored the alien communications. "Sir, the alien fleet commanders are asking how our weapons are so effective. They want to know what technology we are using." Morrison focused on the battle. "Tell them they will receive a full technical briefing after we finish saving their lives." The fight lasted only 30 minutes. The quantum weapons proved so effective that the Devourers could not adapt their defenses fast enough. One by one, the ancient machines were destroyed until only debris remained floating in space. Admiral Zarion's voice came over the communication system. "Human fleet, this is extraordinary. How did you develop such powerful weapons?" Morrison looked around his bridge at the crew that had made this victory possible. "Admiral, we had 2 years to think about our mistakes. We learned from them." 3 weeks later, Morrison stood in the council chambers on the neutral world of Kepler Prime. Representatives from every major alien species sat around a circular table. At the head of the table sat President Danny Clark, who had traveled from New Haven to negotiate humanity's return to galactic affairs. The alien representatives looked uncomfortable and uncertain. For 2 years, they had struggled to maintain order without human leadership. Wars had consumed dozens of systems. Trade had collapsed in many sectors. Pirates controlled vast regions of space. Ambassador Vrex of the Xylorian Trade Federation spoke first. "President Clark, the Xylorian government wishes to formally apologize for our support of the Council resolution that led to humanity's departure. We now understand that our galaxy needs human leadership." President Clark nodded politely. "Ambassador, apologies are unnecessary. The past 2 years taught valuable lessons to everyone." The Mantari Defense Minister leaned forward. "President Clark, the Mantari Republic requests that humanity resume security patrols in our territory. Pirate activity has increased by 400% since your departure." Clark smiled slightly. "Minister, humanity is willing to discuss security arrangements. However, the terms will be different this time." Commander Lisa Hayes entered the chamber carrying a document case. She had spent weeks drafting the new galactic compact that would govern humanity's return to galactic affairs. "Representatives," Clark announced, "humanity is prepared to resume our role in galactic affairs under the following conditions." Hayes distributed copies of the compact to each alien representative. As they read the terms, their expressions showed surprise and concern. The document established humanity as the senior partner in galactic governance. Human commanders would lead all joint military operations. Human scientists would oversee all major research projects. Human administrators would manage all interspecies trade agreements. The Crysteri Science Director spoke up. "President Clark, these terms give humanity unprecedented authority over galactic affairs." Clark's expression remained calm but firm. "Director, 2 years ago humanity was told to step back from galactic leadership. We learned that the galaxy cannot function without strong leadership. We are offering to provide that leadership, but only as acknowledged seniors, not as subordinate partners." Ambassador Vrex studied the document carefully. "Mr. President, what guarantees do we have that humanity will not abuse this authority?" Morrison stepped forward. "Ambassador, you have the guarantee of results. Under human leadership, the galaxy experienced 50 years of peace and prosperity. Under alien leadership, you achieved 2 years of chaos and war." The debate continued for hours, but the outcome was inevitable. The alien species needed human protection and leadership. The alternative was continued warfare and eventual collapse of galactic civilization. One by one, the alien representatives signed the new galactic compact. Humanity would return as the galaxy's acknowledged leader, with authority to make decisions necessary for galactic security and prosperity. 6 months later, Morrison stood on the bridge of the UHS Humanity's Dawn, flagship of the new galactic peace fleet. Through the main window, he could see construction proceeding on New Geneva Station, humanity's new capital in galactic space. "Captain," Lieutenant Parker reported, "we have received 17 new applications from alien species requesting membership in the human Protectorate." Morrison looked at the tactical display showing human ships patrolling trade routes across the galaxy. The Krithani Syndicate had been defeated and disbanded. The pirate fleets had been eliminated or driven into exile. The ecosystem collapse on 43 worlds had been reversed through human intervention. Dr. Helen Rogers approached with her latest environmental report.
Captain, the terraforming projects are ahead of schedule.
We should have all damaged worlds restored within 3 years. Through the communication system, Morrison could hear reports from across the galaxy. Human administrators were organizing relief efforts for war refugees. Human scientists were developing new technologies to improve living conditions on dozens of worlds. Human educators were establishing schools where alien children learned alongside human students. President Clark appeared on the main communication screen. Captain Morrison, I want to thank you for making this possible. Your mission to stop the Devourers proved to the galaxy that humanity had evolved beyond our previous limitations. Morrison looked out at the busy space around New Geneva Station. Alien ships worked alongside human vessels in perfect coordination. Species that had been at war 2 years earlier now cooperated on joint projects under human supervision. Mr. President, Morrison replied, the galaxy learned an important lesson. They discovered the difference between taking protection for granted and earning it through partnership. A young alien communications officer approached Morrison with a report. She was a Xylorian who had graduated from the new integrated training academy that humans had established. Captain, she said in perfect English, we have received confirmation that the last of the refugee camps has been closed. All displaced families have been relocated to suitable worlds within the human protectorate.